Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah, what condition my condition was in.
What up, opiners? Derek Papa here, just your opinion, man. No Alon to say tonight because he's busy doing, I think, some TV work locally in Las Vegas, talking about Kirk Cousins signing with the Las Vegas Raiders, and we're talking about that tonight. We're gonna keep things pretty brief because I know that we got locally in the Bay Area, we got the Giants playing right now. I think they're leading 3-2 right now. We got the Sharks also playing. We got the Warriors playing as well. So I won't keep you too long. And if you really want to watch those games, you'll probably watch those games instead of me right now. But me and Alon, and what's up to Ernie in the chat? Thanks for holding it down tonight. Me and Alon talked about this yesterday, the possibility of Kirk Cousins signing with the Las Vegas Raiders, and that was something that was in the works since Kirk Cousins was released by the Atlanta Falcons. And Diana Rossini was the first one to put it out there. I think I saw her tweet that out immediately once Kirk Cousins was released. So this has been in the works for quite some times, and for quite some time, I should say. And also, I got the sun beating down right now on me. Sound like Matt Steinmetz. Let the sun beat down upon my face. Still got to find a way to close my blinds and still do the show where it's not in glare or whatever. But Kirk Cousins to the Las Vegas Raiders. It makes a ton of sense because Clint Kubiak knows him from his days with the Minnesota Vikings, being the offensive coordinator there. And the real reason why this makes a ton of sense is because Kirk is Fernando Mendoza. They are two peas in a pod when it comes to personality and playing style. And I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if you see Fernando Mendoza live with Kirk Cousins. Like we hear those situations all the time. Macklin Celebrini living with Joe Thornton when he got to San Jose. I think they're going to hit it off incredibly. And it's going to be a good QB room. Not the same as like Brock Purdy and Mac Jones. And we'll see what the LA Rams do as far as who's the backup quarterback when it comes to Matthew Stafford, whether that's Anthony Richardson or they go back to Jimmy Garoppolo or do they draft Ty Simpson. But as far as Fernando Mendoza and Kirk Cousins, I already said today on Twitter, if there is another season of, and there is going to be one, the NFL announced this, if there's going to be another season of the quarterback show on Netflix, I want Kirk Cousins to be a part of it. Obviously for not this upcoming year because it would have been last year. So I want to see him in 2027 be on the Netflix quarterback show once again because I want to see Kirk Cousins and his son Coop. Me and Steven talked about it all the time. Coop and the bonfire. I want to see that bonfire in Las Vegas with Kirk Cousins, Coop, and Fernando Mendoza. It feels like Mendoza's like another Cousins' son. Like it just feels like he's, nerdy in that way. Like I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if they just hit it off swimmingly, where Kirk, after games gives Mendoza a ride home. They both belt out some Celine Dion tunes, and they go get some nice Roy Rogers. They want no part of that Vegas trip, both of them. They're both family men. So, well, Fernando Mendoza doesn't have a family, but Kirk Cousins is a family man, and Mendoza's not a part of that lifestyle. Like, I remember me and Steven playing the clip. I think it was Ricky Williams on the Dan Le Batard show where he was like, yeah, Fernando Mendoza, he was doing media during the national championship, and Fernando Mendoza came up to Ricky Williams and was like, hey, so when did you get really into, girls? And Ricky Williams is like, bro, I've always been into girls since like high school. And Mendoza's like, oh, that's something new in my life. It's like, Jesus, man. So yeah, I think that he's going to be, very, very welcoming to Kirk Cousins being his mentor. And I think this is a fantastic situation because I know that Mendoza has the talent to start from day one, but that doesn't mean he should. Like, when I was growing up before, and I still was growing up during this time, but this really didn't start where QB started from day one since like Matt Ryan and Joe Flacco. Prior to that, like I remember Alex Smith getting drafted first overall, and Tim Rattay, I think, was the starting quarterback in 2005. Prior to that, I'm trying to remember here as far as like starting quarterbacks that were drafted first overall. Peyton Manning, and I know that my man Ernie's not giving me shit for that, but Peyton Manning, he started every game in 1998. I'm trying to think of other quarterbacks. Drew Bledsoe did as well, but it was common where, okay, Carson Palmer. Carson Palmer was drafted in 2003, and he sat that entire year behind John Kitna. And that benefited Carson Palmer greatly. That 2004 season, he was fantastic with Chad Ochocinco and TJ Hushmanzada, who's your mama. So I think that this is going back to the old days where young QBs sat and learned and became better pros and matured and grew. And I think that's going to benefit Fernando Mendoza fantastic. I think that, just to rush him in this situation, and again, he wouldn't be rushed. Like, he's drafted first overall, for God's sake, so he's good to play. Like, I don't think this is an indictment at all on what the Raiders think of Fernando Mendoza. I think it's just he's young. And why not get a quarterback that knows the scheme with Clint Kubiak and can teach Fernando Mendoza? And we know that there's other opportunities out there for Kirk Cousins. Sean McVay was openly campaigning for him to be the backup with the Rams. That made no sense whatsoever. Like, yes, if you're trying to win a Super Bowl, if that's like Kirk Cousins' goal is just to ring chase and be a backup quarterback on a championship team, then by all means, go do that. But Kirk Cousins wants to play, and he wants to be a difference maker for a team. And I know the Raiders don't have a ton of talent right now on the offensive side of the ball. Yes, they have Brock Bowers and Ashton Genty. They did load up offensively as far as getting Jalen Naylor, who I think he knows from the Minnesota days. I could be wrong on that one. They also got Tyler Lindenbaum. So the offensive line is in a better situation than what it was last year. But it's not like Kirk Cousins is playing with the Atlanta Falcons in Bijan Robinson and all the weapons that he had there with Kyle Pitts and Drake London. It's definitely not the same situation that Kirk Cousins had with the Minnesota Vikings with Justin Jefferson and all of that talent. So it's going to be different, but if the whole goal is to mentor Fernando Mendoza, then I think it's perfect. Like, I brought up the Rams. That makes no sense for Kirk Cousins because Matthew Stafford is 1 year older than Kirk Cousins. And yes, it'd be a great quarterback room, but for Kirk Cousins, no, he wants to go to a place where he can play. The Green Bay Packers, Brian Gutekunst also campaigned to have Kirk Cousins be the backup to Jordan Love. You're not going to see the field that much because Jordan Love, yes, he did get injured last year, but you can't count on that. So this is the best situation for Kirk. And yes, we'll see how as training camp progresses and everything, but I do believe Kirk should start. I do think that Kirk Cousins should start over Fernando Mendoza. I think that would benefit Mendoza greatly just to sit, and then when his time is there, then he'll start. And I think that would be in year one. I don't think it would be where Kirk Cousins starts the entire season because eventually, they probably would lose and you go to him, in time. But yeah, I think that this is perfect. I think it's a perfect situation for Fernando Mendoza and Kirk Cousins because he doesn't feel that pressure right away. He doesn't get beat to shit, where a lot of quarterbacks in their rookie years, like Caleb Williams and Cam Ward in recent years, just were playing behind terrible offensive lines. It's not like that situation's ruined their confidence by any means, but, it's just not a good situation. You want your quarterback to come in and learn the position and have to run for their life. So regardless, Fernando Mendoza is going to have some adversity when he plays, but it's better to start him off later on and to learn from somebody in Kirk Cousins. This is going to benefit him greatly. I know I've said that a bunch of times right now, but I think it's just an ideal situation. You don't see this with a lot of rookie quarterbacks. Like Caleb Williams' backup was Tyson Bagent, who was proven to be a pretty good backup quarterback, but not a veteran savvy guy that's going to teach you how to play at the next level. Same thing with, a year ago with Cam Ward. Who's his backup quarterback? Will Levis is going to learn from that guy? No. So the best situation for Fernando Mendoza is to learn from a guy that knows this scheme very well with Kirk Cousins knowing Clint Kubiak. a guy that has a similar personality as him, kind of a goober and, not going to go out and live a party lifestyle. And a guy that is similar as far as playing the quarterback position. Everybody comps Fernando Mendoza to Kirk Cousins. And I don't know how I feel about that because Kirk Cousins has been a fantastic quarterback in his career. But when you're drafting first overall, do you want Kirk Cousins? No. You want a guy that has a little more mobility. So, yeah, I as far as just learning the offense and, being a better pro and getting support in the quarterback room, it's a fantastic situation for Fernando Mendoza and the Raiders and Kirk Cousins. And it feels like for the first time in a while that the Raiders have a plan at quarterback. Like last year was just a quick fix. Let's get Geno Smith in. Let's have him be the starter and everything will be fine. And this is the first solid plan that they had post the Derek Carr era, where they didn't have a solid plan after Derek Carr releasing him. He obviously had the no trade clause and decided that he wasn't going to, approve a trade to the New Orleans Saints. He'd rather go be released and go interview with the Saints and the Jets and the Panthers. And that's Derek Carr's right. But the Raiders didn't have a plan after that. Just Josh McDaniels wanted him out the door. So that offseason, I believe they wanted to go after Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers, and both. Well, Tom Brady said no. He just retired. Aaron Rodgers, he was willing to go to the Raiders, and they just weren't interested. Josh McDaniels was not interested. He wanted Jimmy Garoppolo, who he knew from back in the day and played quarterback, or had him play quarterback for the New England Patriots, and it was going to be an easy transition because Jimmy knows the scheme, but he was terrible. Absolutely terrible. Then after that, it was, let's bring in Aiden O'Connell, and let's bring in Gardner Minshew, and let's bring in Geno Smith. And for the first time since Derek Carr, it feels like they have a solid quarterback plan where they have the quarterback of the future and the quarterback of the past, and the quarterback of the past is willing to teach the quarterback of the future. So I think it's a fantastic situation. I can't say it enough. I think that there's no downside to this whatsoever. I think that either way, Kirk is going to be in there and you can win games. You could be competitive with Kirk Cousins as your quarterback. And then when it's clear that he's not the same guy anymore, they're having their struggles, you can move on from him and draft Fernando Mendoza. So it's a situation we don't see a lot these days since the guy that I mentioned, Carson Palmer in 2004, going from John Kitna and just being on the bench that entire season. It benefits guys to learn how to do the job. Like, I'll just speak from personal experience. Like, I wish that I could, I've been doing radio for a long time, for, 10 years now producing. I wish I was given more of an opportunity to do like nights and weekends before they just threw me into the mix on, drive time afternoon with Adam Copeland. And I love doing it now, but it's scary. It was scary at first. It still is scary, but you want to learn. You want to get reps before you're just thrown into the big time here. So Fernando Mendoza will play in the preseason. He'll preseason games, but he'll learn everything in practice. He'll get second team reps. He'll get first team reps. But yeah, I think that this is just going to be beneficial to the Raiders. It's going to help Clint Kubiak, where right away he's not going to have like a 2-15 season, and he wouldn't have that regardless if Fernando Mendoza started from the get-go. But it means that you can actually go out and be competitive. And then when you feel it's appropriate to go to your first overall pick, then they'll do that. So yeah, I saw some people today say, like, why not just start Mendoza? Why not just do that? Yeah, you could do that, but we've seen in recent years, I mentioned it, Caleb Williams, Trevor Lawrence, Cam Ward, all those guys had terrible seasons. Not terrible seasons, but as far as like win totals, it was bad. And most of those coaches got axed. Doug Peterson, it was Urban Meyer that first season, and he didn't finish out the year. He got fired. Same thing with Matt Eberflus. He was axed before the end of the year with Caleb Williams. And then a year ago with Brian Callahan with Cam Ward. And not to say that was going to happen with Clint Kubiak, but at least you have a guy that knows my scheme, a guy that has won games in this league, a guy that's been to the postseason before, and I trust him to not only lead this team, but mentor this quarterback to have him be the best possible quarterback in this league. So I see some people in the chat here. It's just Rocket New Era and AJ Cruz here, just reacting to some of their comments here. Rockin says, Kirk gets hurt by week 4 and Mendoza starts is my prediction. Yeah, I don't know if he gets hurt, but man, I love Rocket New Era saying like, I'm not here for all the football talk, but then he wants to come in here and talk shit about the Raiders. Okay, I see your style, man. I predict the Raiders getting 7 wins. You can't expect a lot from the Raiders. We'll see, man. We still got a draft. I want to see what they do with the wide receiver room, but I think 7's a reasonable amount. We'll see what happens here, but they got a lot of talent, guys. They picked up Quay Walker. They picked up Nakobe Dean. They improved the offensive line with Tyler Lindenbaum. I still don't love their wide receiver room, so I want to see them improve that when they get to the draft. But yeah, no, I think it's a solid situation. And I think the Raiders won't be the same team from a year ago where they were just awful. It may be the worst Raider team I've seen in my lifetime. And I've watched the 2006 team. I've seen a lot of bad Raider football teams. And of course, Max Crosby is back. Let's not forget about that. But I do think that they will be an improved team. I do think that with the additions to the offensive line and having some competent quarterback play, I do think that the offense will look a hell of a lot better, especially with Clint Kubiak, who orchestrated the Super Bowl champions on offense a year ago. And Rock and Aaron wants to talk shit. But you say you're not a Raiders fan, so why do you let the comments get to you? They don't get to me, dude. I'm just responding to them because you want me to engage in the chat more. That's what I'm doing. As far as the compensation for Kirk Cousins signed, and this is kind of a weird deal now where a lot of NFL contracts are just can consist of funny money. Like the Travis Kelce deal is 3 years when we all know he's going to play 1 more season. So this is just stuff to manipulate the cap. So don't read too much into this, but Kirk Cousins signed a 5-year, $172 million deal with the Raiders that even Adam Schefter says here that in reality is a 1-year, fully guaranteed $20 million deal that also contains a club option for 2 years at $80 million. So basically, he signs a 5-year contract that's worth $34 million a year, and he's going to get that as far as the guaranteed money plus like a signing bonus. So that stuff that's all the stuff that like agents send to the insiders just to make it seem like they got like a ridiculous amount of money. But yeah, Kirk Cousins is not going to be with the Raiders longer than 1 season, and I don't think he even starts the entire year. So again, I think this is a fantastic situation where the Raiders can go out and have Kirk Cousins start games, be competitive. They're going to be in the worst situation in the AFC West. That we'll see when Patrick Mahomes comes back, and again, that situation's not bad. Where Justin Fields is going to play a couple of games until Patrick Mahomes comes back from his torn ACL. But the Chargers are better. The Broncos are better. The Raiders are just learning how to be a competent football team that have a offense that actually can, move down the field and not always get sacked in the backfield or have their, 5th overall pick or 6th overall pick in Ashton Genty get blown up at the line of scrimmage for a 6-yard loss. You're going to see changes this year. And I know that every year me and Steven talked about that in the previous seasons when we getting into Raider football, but I do feel it where I trust in this coach and Clint Kubiak. I do kind of feel like he's kind of got that Kyle Shanahan vibe, a son of a coach, going to the Super Bowl, winning the Super Bowl as the offensive coordinator. I do think he can handle things pretty well. And the fact that Max Crosby's back, I think is going to rejuvenate the team as well. You could have easily just, done a rebuild and had 2 first-round picks this season and next season to rebuild the team, and that would have been beneficial. I wonder if Kirk Cousins signs in that situation, because I don't think he views this as like they're going to be a playoff team by any means, but I do think he views this as, all right, this is my last chance to start. It's a better opportunity than what I was going to have with the Rams or the Packers, and I can just go out and win. And it helps that Max Crosby's back, but yeah, I wonder if that did play a factor where there is players on defense. There would have been players on defense regardless with the additions of the Kobe Dean and Quay Walker and Kwity Paye and Eric Stokes, who's coming back from a year ago. But yeah, No, I do think that I'm not saying this is going to change the season by any means. How they're going to be a playoff team, but it does help the Raiders to have Kirk Cousins in there. And I do want to play this clip. And give me a second here because I didn't have it ready before we started. I do want to get this clip of Kirk Cousins talking to Kevin Clark of I believe The Ringer. He does a podcast and wanted to get. He was talking about how. What the hell is this? Oh, hang on. I got to change my. Sorry, everybody. I'm pulling this up in real time. But I want to play the audio of Kirk Cousins talking about how what he sees is beneficial for young quarterbacks in the league. Another domino with this, the fact that Kirk Cousins signs with the Raiders, is I think that maybe he was holding out for the Steelers and what was going to happen with that situation. I think it's pretty clear that it's trending in the direction of Aaron Rodgers coming back to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I know a year ago I was like, when is he finally going to sign this fucking deal and go to Pittsburgh? I think it's clear that he goes on his own time, and I think the Steelers must know at this point that he's coming back. Otherwise, they wouldn't put up with this shit. So even though like we're all waiting as fans or the media, like when is it going to be official? And we get an Adam Schefter tweet that Aaron Rodgers is signing with the Steelers. I think that he's already probably called Mike McCarthy and Omar Khan and everybody involved in that front office and said, I'm coming back for another season. Just wait for me. I'm not going to sign the contract yet. Whatever it is, I'm cool with it. I'll show up the first week of OTAs in June, and I'll be there. That's what I think is going down with Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers. So Kirk Cousins must have known that, and was like, all right, then I might as well just go to the Raiders, get a chance to start. And we know that he's going to start because that's what Clint Kubiak wants. We played the audio yesterday, where the ideal situation for Clint Kubiak in year one as head coach of the Raiders is to have a mature or a veteran quarterback come in and have the backup quarterback learn and grow and mature as a pro in this league. So I want to play this clip of Kirk Cousins on with Kevin Clark of The Ringer. Or is he with The Ringer? No, he's actually with ESPN now. My apologies. But this is hold on, let me just get everything situated. Sorry, guys. It's tough when you're solo dolo and you got to do all this shit. So here's Kevin Clark. He sat down with Kirk Cousins and he asked this is from today, but he asked the new Raiders QB what he would change about QB development a few weeks back. The first thing you mentioned is rookie sitting and learning, a great breakdown of how he views the position and potentially his new role here. So he basically asks him, what's the best situation for rookie QBs coming into their first year? Oh, hang on.
If Roger Goodell called you and said, Kirk, you had a great career, what should every team learn about how to develop quarterbacks? What would you tell anybody asking?
Well, I do think that there was a time when, Aaron Rodgers got drafted and sat for 3 years.
Yeah.
Carson Palmer got drafted and sat for a year. But there have been teams that have said that was the plan, and then week 4, 5, 6, the guy's playing.
Yeah.
So I also think that there was a time when coaches stuck around.
Yeah.
And a quarterback learned a system and played in that system for most of his career. And nowadays, you may, like, I've had 9 play callers in my career. There's a chance next year I'm on my 10th.
Oh my God.
And so, and I just had the quarterback coach of the Falcons reach out, and I told him, you're my 11th quarterback coach. So the turnover has both, coaches and teammates. I think that makes it really hard because it is such a team game. The position of quarterback requires a continuity.
Nope. Did it freeze? Hang on, everybody. Sorry.
Around you that you just don't have anymore. And so the guys who, are on the back end and kind of been able to build up that experience can deal with that maybe a little more. But the young guys, you want to give them as much continuity as you can, and that just hasn't been the environment that many guys, including a Sam Darnold, have been given.
I saw it was like 21 new play callers or head coaches next year.
A lot of change,
crazy.
and so when you're asking a talented player to kind of rewire his brain to do something different, he's not going to be the same talented player because he's going to be a step slow and he's going to be learning and thinking again. And you want to take that thinking out of it. So the more you can be a Tom Brady or a Drew Brees who's been in the same system for 15 years, the better the quarterback play you're going to get.
So there you go. And that makes a ton of sense. Where we see, like Kevin O'Connell had the line that everybody runs with now, where more franchises fail their QBs than QBs fail their franchises. And that's kind of ironic considering what's going on with JJ McCarthy right now. We'll see if he stays with the team, but that's true. And you want to put your QB in the best possible situation. Like yesterday, we talked about Jalen Hurts, me and Alon. But the truth is, he's had so many different offensive coordinators that's probably really stopped his progression as a quarterback. Same thing with Alex Smith when he came into the league. His first coach was Mike McCarthy as the offensive coordinator when Mike Nolan was the head coach of the team. And then they changed offensive coordinators every single year. So that's not beneficial to somebody. Like with Tom Brady, he had the same guy in who was his OC to start with New England. I'll look it up here in a second. But that helps. The same thing with Aaron Rodgers having Mike McCarthy there from the beginning. So hopefully it's the same situation for Fernando Mendoza where he grows with Clint Kubiak and he learns from Kirk Cousins. So that's gonna bother me though. Hang on, guys. Let me check that real quick of who was. My memory is not as good as it used to be, and it's pissing me off. Charlie Weiss. That was there. You go. I got it. Tom Brady's first offensive coordinator when he was playing for the New England Patriots. So that's really it, guys. That's all I got to say about Kirk Cousins. Alon's going to join me on Sunday. We'll be back on Easter Sunday at 11 o'clock. We'll talk about the Kirk Cousins signing for the Raiders and how it benefits them going forward. We'll also talk about Steph Curry coming back that day. He's going to return on Easter Sunday, funny enough, even though Jaden Ivey says that he's not a real Christian because he curses. But Steph Curry will rise on Easter Sunday to play the Houston Rockets, one of his favorite teams to play. And we'll talk about that along with, it sounds like, according to Tim Kawakami, that Steve Kerr's coming back for another season, his last dance. And the Warriors are going all out to get Kawhi Leonard. They tried to get him at the trade deadline. The Clippers changed their mind at the last second and pulled out of the deal. We'll see if they're that aggressive at the deadline. Right now, was it with the Giants? They're up 5-2 after 3. So this Willie Adamas leading off offense, or lineup, I should say, is looking pretty good for them right now. What else is going on with the Sharks? They get on the board. 2-0 for the Sharks. Nice. Who scored for them? Let's see here. Colin Graff. Look at this Colin Graff and Stapchuk. Again, I'm not gonna act like I know everything with the Sharks, but I'm happy that they're winning. And then the Warriors playing too right now. It's crazy that all teams are playing simultaneously. Cavs and Warriors right now on a back-to-back for the Warriors. Warriors are down 39-34. Let's get Steph Curry back already, even though I don't think it's gonna make that much of a difference. All right, everybody, we'll see you guys on Sunday. And I guess it's only appropriate to say, or you know what? Before I do that, I got to acknowledge everybody in the chat. Thanks to Ernie1. Thanks to Pat H. Sorry I won't see you at the patio tomorrow, Pat H., but hopefully we see you pretty soon here. And thanks to Rocka New Era, who just wants to slip into the chat and talk shit about the Raiders, even though he's giving his honest prediction, he says. All right, guys, we'll see you on Sunday. And if you think that Kirk Cousins going to the Raiders is going to stunt the growth of Fernando Mendoza, stop lying. You like that. It's just our opinion, man.